People very often ask, how can the biblical account of creation be compatible with evolutionary biology?
First of all, the Bible is not a science textbook. I write science textbooks, so I know a bit about that. I write a cell biology textbook. The Bible is not that.
It's interested in the theology, not the science. I think we do the Bible a great disservice when we try and read it as a scientific textbook, and we miss out so much of its richness. Genesis 1 is a very structured and ordered account with 3 stages of God separating and 3 stages of God filling. But it's not really interested in explaining from a scientific point of view how the universe came into being. I don't think that's its point at all.
The Bible is a book of literature. It's God's book of literature, but it has many literary genres. We need to be careful about that. And we need to be careful about focusing on the Bible as it would have been understood by its original intended audience. And they didn't know anything about modern science. So to read back modern science into this wonderful, inspired book, to me, is something dangerous. And I want to be careful not to do that.
When we come to interpret Genesis in the light of science, I think there are several things we need to bear in mind. The first is we need to think about the context in which Genesis was written. It was written in a particular historical time frame, in a particular context, in a particular theological and social and political environment. To help us understand the theological message, we need to go back to what the context was of the ancient authors of Genesis. They were operating in a polytheistic framework where people worshipped many, many gods. They were operating in a world where there were many other stories about creation circulating. And they were trying to draw the distinctive nature of God, Yahweh, and how he alone should be praised. It's got its own particular theological point, which is to stress God, the one true God, as creator of everything and the one who orders everything.
Now, the author of Genesis was not a scientist, not interested in scientific questions. He wants to talk about God as the ultimate origin of all things. What do I think is the really important message of Genesis, say Genesis 1 to 3? There are so many things there. There are some things that are not important at all. We may fuss about them. Chronology, who cares? The point that Genesis wants to make is this. This world is God's creation. It owes its existence to God, and in some way the goodness and wisdom of God is expressed in the created order. Then secondly, we are part of that created order. But we are not identical with, we're made with God's image. That means there's something about us which means that we are able to discern God, but above all, we are accountable for the use we make of the creation. And then thirdly, of course, Genesis 3 tells us we're messed up. In effect, there's something about us that means we are intrinsically inclined to do wrong, to seek the lesser good. And it means we need God's grace if we're going to become the people we're meant to be, and also look after this world as we're meant to.
I think that Genesis provides us with important insights about God that may not necessarily need to be a biological description of how God created the world, but the fact that he did, and that God has that relationship with us as our author and our creator. My general approach is I understand Genesis to teach me about God, about my position to God, the position of nature to God, but not so much as a scientific description of that process.